The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show. Question, needing to have all the details before making a change. Okay, well, let me respond to that because I that's for you. I love answering your questions, Claire, and I love your detail orientedness. For everybody that feels this way, not just Claire. And I am a recovering perfectionist, so please don't hear judgment. Hear a fellow struggler trying to come alongside you and help. I had a really good coach one time who's still a friend of mine, Carl Gronberg, great guy. Asked me about really diving into me with that perfectionist. And he's like, how has that served you? And I initially was like, really well. Being a perfectionist has really served me. And then as he didn't tolerate that superficial answer, he kind of picked at it some more. I realized it had not served me really well or the people around me really well. So very small slices and aspects were helpful and good, but a lot of it was not good. That's why the very first training we do for you guys is the crappy version 1.0. You got to be okay with some degree. I shouldn't say you got it. Your life and the people around your life is going to be so much better if, or even less judgmental. My life was so much better when I opened up to a little bit more of go fast and break things, right? So if you have a brain surgery clinic, we're not going to do that, right? Luckily, we coach or have cleaning companies. All that's okay to go fast and break stuff a little bit. So I would encourage you, Claire, to acknowledging it, believe it or not, of, hey, I feel like I've got to get everything right. I feel like I have to create the certain circumstance before I can take action. Recognizing that as step one, looking at that is not always good and sometimes hurtful. Step two, and then just giving yourself permission in small things to be like, let me try going a little faster and breaking something, just not worrying about something will probably make you experience your business a little better, if not grow faster. Any of that fair?
Yeah, I think so. The big thing that I keep getting stuck on is the rate increases for clients. I'm so concerned about like factoring all of the costs in and then coming up with like the correct rate increase so that I'm not making a mistake and then circling back to clients like 3 or 4 months from now and being like, hey, like actually we're not charging you enough. So another rate increase. I'm sure part of it is the nervousness around increasing rates, but the big perfectionist on me, I guess, hold back in this circumstance is just like, oh, shoot, if I don't do this thoroughly and correct, I might be making a mess for myself later on.
So that was really articulate, Claire. Thank you for that. And by the way, guys, gals, the better question you ask and the better you position your struggle, the more effective I can be. So I'm going to give that a thought for a second because that was really articulate. Okay. Here's the frustrating part about what you just said. Completely true. Like none of that is like bullshit. You're telling yourself lies. Claire, don't do that. The beautiful part is it's not the only truth, right? Oh. So this is a perfect, and that's why I love you being here in this program, because in this, so again, guys, gals, whether it's me or any coach, if you've got a coach that you trust, one of the benefits is if they're a good coach, we'll make sure that the guards are up so you can take a little spin, right? So I promise I won't let you, if there was a deal where I'm like, you have to get this exactly right. If it's 53% cost of goods sold, you were boned, do not screw this up. It's going to be, I promise I would have told you. So the good news is you can give yourself permission to be like, Mike would have told me if there's a big, like, you know, who you pick as clients, not taking one-time stuff, understanding cost of goods sold, not having your book. There are some things I'll scream and jump up and down and be like, you got to get this part right. Especially on residential, if you're at 63% cost of goods sold and you're raising, like, by goodness, now I'm at 54. Like things are still way better and you're still going to fix it going forward by getting all your new people correct. So one of the things I like to do is go, what's the worst reasonable outcome of this? Because sometimes we just, you did a really good job. I make a mess of myself. Well, that could mean a lot of things, you know, like nuclear war or just a small problem, right? We kind of use this imprecise language. So if we talk about it, the worst comes to worst is you're way off, which you're not. Like, I just know you're not. And you raise prices and you don't do it enough. And it's a good thought. That's for everyone else. The flip side of this is, oh my God, I have to double their price and that's too much. And I feel weird about it and I'm scared. So I'll just raise it by 60%. Well, now you're setting yourself up for exactly the puddle that Claire is talking about stepping in. So don't do it on purpose, you knucklehead. But what Claire's talking about, which I think is a more appropriate concern, is what if I just make a math error? What if I'm wrong? We're doing it together. I'm going to look at it. So if you make an error, you're not going to be off by 80%. You might be off by 4%. So worst likely outcome, you thought you were going down to 48% cost of goods sold and you went to a 53.5 or 55%. Okay. So you could just keep it. Now you're stuck with the 55, but other people will be at 45 and you just move on with your life and you won't do it again and it's fine. Or let's go worst comes to worst. You're at whatever. And you're like, damn it, it's 65 and I'm not willing to keep it. And you do go to Liz. Hey, Liz, I know I look like a fool. I raised it 2 months ago and by God, here I am again raising it. I'm so sorry. I can't do math. Fire me if you like, but it's got to be the new rate. And she's like, you're fired. Okay, well, your kids will probably be healthy. Yeah, like you just move on with your life. Like that'll just be that. Like, so once you kind of put out the biggest reasonable negative outcome, you're like, well, could I withstand that? Could I be okay? And like, yeah, I'd probably be okay. Now let's look at the outcome of doing nothing. Well, you know that your prices are high enough now. So we're guaranteed to lose money now. So it's like in the future, I'll be losing less money, but not all the less money I thought I'll be making more money, just not as much money as I'd hoped. Still a better freaking out. You know what I'm saying? So even the worst reasonable outcome is still far better than doing nothing. Does that give you a little confidence? Like, okay, I can do this.
No, that makes sense. I actually read a book by Dale Carnegie that talks about how you should accept like the worst possible case scenario and like expect it so that when you take action on things, like 99% of the time, it'll always be better than the outcome that you accept in your brain. So that very much that what you said really reminded me of that like approach to like the perfectionist.
And I'll do you one better. In this little slice of your life, you're paying someone that has been down this road 1,000 times. And a big part of his job that he's very good at is to make sure you don't make a catastrophic mistake. So You're not even doing it by yourself. You've got someone to watch you and be like, it's okay. And obviously you're going to make a little bump here and a little bump there, and that's okay. And I can't help you all be perfect. I'm not even perfect, but I can make sure you don't make any big catastrophic mistakes. So hopefully that'll give you some freedom to be like, okay, if it was possibility that something was wrong, trust me, that's why I like looking at your customer profitability spreadsheet. If you were way off or there's something that was, I would be screaming and yelling and throwing a fit. So if I'm comfortable, I promise you could be comfortable because I could do it in my sleep. So I would have that as a second layer of comfort, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And I'll give you one last thing because Nikki mentioned in the chat, like I'm dealing with that a little bit and there might be a couple other people. So I want to give 2 or 3 things. So it hits everybody gets something that they can take. I forget this story. It's such a good story. And I always butcher it, but there's a guy who went to his neighbor and he wanted to use his plow. And he's like, hey, can I borrow your plow the next day? And the guy's like, oh, no, I'm using it. He's like, oh, okay, no problem. And he went home and he left. And the next day he was walking by his neighbor's house and the plow was right in the garage. And they're, right in the farm, he wasn't using it. And the guy, the farmer was out and he goes, hey, I thought you were going to use your plow. And he goes, man, when you don't want to lend your neighbor a plow, one excuse is as good as another, right? Like it doesn't matter. I just didn't want to do it. So it can be the same thing with when you don't want to raise prices. One excuse is, what if I screw it up? What if somebody punches me? What if the earth falls in? What if time reverses? So give yourself, and when you acknowledge that, it makes it a little better. Like, okay, the guy was using the plate, just wanted to use the plow. Now that I see it, it's okay. I'm not saying this is 100%. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 27, but greater than 0% is a little clearer. Just going, I don't want to do this. And once you can recognize it and point at it, you can go, okay, that's another part of it. Fair. Okay, let's hit your second question. 1, should we pay a flat allowance for mileage employees or calculate the exact mileage for payroll? It's a really good question. I personally would just do the flat thing because I'm lazy and I think it's so much cleaner. I'm almost wanting to change the spreadsheet because everyone does it. Oh, I got to do the miles because that's what the spreadsheet does. I do the spreadsheet as an allowance for the small minority. Like, no, I really want to do it. I don't want to take away their ability to do it. But I would not do that. I would just be like, average miles is 6. I'm going to pay 7. Average time is 12 minutes. I'm going to pay 14 and moving on with my freaking life. So they're both fine. There's no, again, that's the same thing where it's like neither of those is going to take you way off the, neither is going to make or break your business. I'm just lazy and I like it being simple. And again, I don't want to have the, well, hold on, Kim, you drove to Claire's house and I know that's 16 minutes, but you have 22 minutes. You're like, well, I stopped for a Coke or I didn't do it. Or like, this is not how I want to spend my life. So if we all just know what they're getting paid and I can move on with my life, that would be my strong preference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I reached out to our accountant because that's one of the changes we have to make. And he mentioned that like the CRA here in Canada, like we have to have a record of that somewhere. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on like, well, if we have to get a record of it, should we just calculate it out? But I think I'll circle back with him because if we're able to just do it like a general allowance of the average time that they use and we just keep like records in case we get audited, then maybe that's the easiest way to go.
Yeah. And for just, again, I try and say this as often as possible. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax professional. So obviously if I inadvertently tell anyone to break the law, don't do that. Do what the legal thing is. I'll never tell you to do anything immoral, but these governments make such cockamamie laws. I might tell you to do something inadvertently illegal. Don't do that. Check with a lawyer for anything legal. That said, yeah, I would just get crystal clear on the law. What would probably be the easiest way, as long as it would be compliant. And again, no offense, you poor Canadians, they beat the heck out of you with red tape. They don't make it easier. Like you guys, California, Chicago, San Francisco, like there's some places in our state where I'm like, oh boy, I feel bad when I get clients in there. I'm like, I'm so sorry you're in California, man. I'll do my best, but you're going to get stuck a little bit. Okay. So what would probably, and again, I'm not familiar with the laws of your province, obviously, but what I would do is probably still have the software on the deal. So it's tracked automatically. And that would just be my record. And as long as the software people are like, oh, we have that, you can access it whenever you want. Then I'd be like, is that compliant? And if that's compliant, that to me is the slickest, easiest way to be like, it's tracked, it's dealt with. And I might audit it quarterly to make sure our demographics of our things haven't changed. And now I'm screwing them, right? It used to be the average was 12 minutes. I paid 14. Now it's 16 minutes. Obviously I want to be fair. So internally, just to do the right thing, I want some tracking just so I can have some sort of numbers that I'm confident I'm taking good care of my employees. And then obviously whatever you need to do to comply with the law, you need to do. Hey, amazing people, you may have noticed we don't sell a dadgum thing on this podcast. We don't allow ads. The only ask I can ever have of you guys is if you dig the show, for you to spread the word and share so we can change as many lives as possible. Literally, it'll take you 5 seconds to give us a great review, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you as a listener and value the gift of your kind words. Now, back to the show. Okay, we have to make 3 very big changes in operations and pricing. Raise prices, good. Receive credit cards, good. That's easy, by the way. Charge on the first or second room, all fine. Should we? Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Don't do it in the stages. Same thing with Claire. Raising people's prices $10 every month for the next 5 months doesn't feel great, and I'll probably quit. Raising them one time for $50, no big deal. So the big thing is the energy that you guys are bringing into this is much more the problem than the actual deal. The part of the value of next level, scroll back. You can see, Elite, you scroll back for years and you'll see the same thing play out over and over in the Facebook group. Mike, I'm so scared. It's not going to work. You don't understand. Everyone's going to quit. Shit, I just did it. Nobody quit, or 3 people quit and I hated them anyway. Like just about every time. I can't recall the last time. I think there was one where someone let only 2 clients go, right? The more you let go, the more the numbers play, but you do 2, both of them staying doesn't mean it's, they don't extrapolate well. One time, I think a guy let 1 or 2 clients leave and they quit. That's the only time I can remember 100% of clients leave. And he wasn't even devastated. He was like, I was hoping they wouldn't, but they kind of sucked anyway. Other than that, I can't recall ever, like dozens, if not hundreds of times, 100% of the time, other than one I can recall and probably 1 or 2 I just don't remember. It's always the same. Oh, it's gonna, you don't understand. They're gonna blah, blah, blah. Shit, I did it. It was fine. Like you'll just see it over and over and over in the Facebook group. And if you had the time to go through every call, you'd see the same thing. So I just want to encourage you, not a big deal. So the other thing is just because it's a change doesn't mean it's bad. So taking credit cards, so much easier. Could you guys imagine if I'm like, with your investment, I'm like, well, I need a sack full of nickels and I need you to leave it outside at the garbage can and I'm going to meet it. Now you'd be there. You'd be like, are you out of your effing mind? You'd be like, just take my credit card. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to pull a fast one, but I'm like, you're over there. I'm over here. what are you gonna send a carrier pigeon full of $100 bill? Like, just give me your freaking credit card. And everyone's like, yeah, I'll be like, zero of you are like, what's your game, sir? Like, you all, but of course I'm gonna pay my credit. What are we doing here? Could you imagine, you know, I'm like, well, I'd like you in the program. We'll get you started. Just send a check. It's P.O. Box. You'd be like, what are you talking? That would be an insane request. You would be like, don't you take credit cards? Like, it would be, if someone asked me for a check, I get rip shit. I'm like, I don't know where a check is. What I literally went to a place the other day. They didn't take cash. I tried to pay cash. Like, no, you do credit cards. Like, okay, it's good thing I have a credit card. So don't bring any weirdness that we're now taking credit cards. Is like, yeah, like clearly, if you were asking them to fax you their money, that would be a weird thing. But when you're taking a credit card, there's nothing weird about that unless you bring that into the, you know what I'm saying? If you bring in weirdness, there could be weirdness. But if you're just like, all of you guys bought from our company and whoever enrolled you took your credit card. No one went, what the hell? What is this witchcraft? You went, yeah, that's how we do commerce. I understand. Getting paid in advance, 100% of you guys paid, whether one pay or two pay, you paid before you got in. Nobody was like, what the hell's going on here, friend? Like, yeah, I get it. I pay for the thing and then I get it. So going to your people and just go, hey, as we're scaling our business, it doesn't make any sense to have 1,000 bills at 1,000 different times. We're just doing everybody automated credit card the first of the month, just like Netflix, just like your gym, just like your, and again, pull out, any of you guys don't believe me, pull out your own bank statement and highlight all the ones that are automated debits that you don't, everything, your car, your house, whether you rent or buy, it's all, I promise you, you don't pay rent for last month, you pay rent for next month. If you don't pay, they throw your ass out. You don't pay the car payment for last month, you pay for the upcoming month, and you don't pay, they take that car back. So you going, we're joining the 21st century and billing in advance via credit card is nothing. If they're shocked, that's a them problem, not a you problem. So short answer, yeah, we're gonna have all that in one conversation. It's not like, oh, there's 3 bits of bad news. It's like, no. I even think raising prices is like, yeah, we're going to do a better job. We're going to kick ass. Like, it's been 3 years or however long. Inflation has been nutballs. Obviously knew this was coming, and to make it. And trust me, I don't like it. If I had cleaners are like, now we're going to come and we're going to check every hour and how we're going to do, and then we're going to tell you what it is. And then you're going to need to pay us I'd be like, are you out of your effing mind? Just take my credit card. Tell me. And like, well, I don't know how much it should be because we don't, I'm going to like, do your job, dude. Could you imagine if you came here and I'm like, I don't know, you sound like you need a lot of coaching. Could be $8,200, could be as high as $14,700. You'd be like, what? Like, well, I don't know how many hours I'm going to spend with you. You'd be like, what the F, dude? So I promise you, people are much more interested in just take my freaking credit card and deal with it. And tell me what it's going to be, right? I didn't go, give me your credit card, I'll charge it, and don't you worry about it. Like, obviously I have to tell you, but all this stuff is good, right? And again, if we told you, hey, all of the goals that you have that you hear, I'm like, we can get you in for $842. All of you that aren't insane would have been, that seems unrealistic for the results that I'm asking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to pay a premium because you're like, I know I'm going to get an actual result. If it was a nickel, you'd be like, this sounds fishy. So I would go in with the deep down to my bones belief that that 20-25% is a very reasonable profit. Getting paid automatically on credit cards is good for you and for them. Profit is good for you and for them. All these things you're doing for them, with them. I feel zero shame about what we charge. And if you guys didn't like it, like, good. That's how I disqualify the shitty customers. I want the good customers. And because I'm not weird about it, you guys don't feel weird about it. If you did, I'd be like, get the hell out. Go find a hobo that hasn't bought and sold and created several $1 million to help you. Like, I'm not interested in that. So are you kind of feeling the vibe of, yeah, we're doing good work. We charge fair price and we're automating because we're not a freaking caveman. Cool? Not cool?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the other thing I've been looking at. It's like, to me, it should be exciting for them to hear like, oh, I just got to pay you once a month on the first. I don't have to worry about, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, did I send the Zelle or the Venmo, or, I'm just like, every first of the month, it's just charged and then it's taken care of. I think the bigger piece is just like hitting a consumer with like all 3 hits at once. And they're like, oh, are you like a different company now?
It's not, it's one hit. Hey, Johan, good news and bad news. Bad news is I don't know how to do math. I screwed up our pricing. Good news is we're going to make it right, baby. And I promise we'll kick ass and take names. So going forward, I know it's $300 a month and it's now $400. If you need to fire me, I'll get right the hell out. But it's $400. We're going to make it super easy. Just do credit card. I'm going to run it the first of every month. Everyone's life's easy. Cool. See, it's really one conversation.
Yeah.
Because they're all similar. And again, you're not trying to pull a fast one. Same conversation, let me come up with a different energy. Hey, Johan, can we talk? So I know it's been 300 and I know now I haven't raised prices and inflation's been high, just so you know, and things are getting expensive. And I've tried not to do this, but I've got to raise prices. And I know, and also I know it's a lot. And this feels like it's a whole different company, but we're going to have to take credit cards. And on top of the credit cards now what the F, man? Like that all sounds very scary and overwhelming, but I'm like, hey dude, I did a bad job on the pricing. We got to fix it. It's $400 as opposed to futzing around with all this nonsense with billing. I don't know what I was thinking. We're just going to do a first of the month credit card, easy peasy. There's like a 3% fee. Don't worry. I got it. I'll cover the whole thing. Use your Amex so you can get points. Cool. See how it's as soon as I start begging and explaining, it's inflation. Things are getting expensive. I'm not trying to it sounds fishy, right? When I just go, it was this, now it's that. Moving on. You're like, okay, well, I guess it's more expensive now. Like, there we go. Cool. And the good news is everybody I've coached through, not everybody, the vast majority put this at a 7 or 8 in terms of pain or difficulty level. And they do it. And I'm like, it was a 3. And if you did this with enough people, 10 to 15% would be like, I was wondering to raise prices. You guys have been so cheap. I was waiting for it to happen. 30% will just give you the, okay, like completely disinterested. Another 30 or 40% will be like, I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. And you go, well, that's what's happening. We'll keep you on the schedule till June 1st or whenever you want to give them. And if after that, I'm charging the new amount. And if you want to quit before that, just let me know. Cool. All right, fine. And they think they're going to quit and they forget. And then you charge them and they're like, what was I pissed off about? That's the reason why. And then they still stay. And then a third fire you and you're like, and they're all the a-holes anyway. And you're like, okay. Sometimes 0. Sometimes you think a third are going to leave and none leave. But when they leave, 90% of the time, it's like, I didn't like that guy anyway. I was gonna, like you have in your mind, the ones that you hope stay and hope leave, the ones that you hope leave are typically the ones that leave. Cool. You get what you need, brother?
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me. But like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend. Share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431, 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.